Hey guys, welcome back to Chariot Palmistry. My name is Sulabh Jain, and in this video we're going to be having a look at the predictions of the month of July. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world over June, and we'll talk about a lot of that stuff as well. But first, let me explain why you're getting this video late. You see, I sat down to record the video, did the whole thing, and then realized my video camera stopped working. So I had to get a new one, and that took a couple days. So that's the reason you're getting this video a little bit late. We still are going to be talking about all the good stuff over June and July though. But before we get into that, I just want to talk very briefly about a video series I put out, I think over the last couple of weeks, called the most important video series I'm ever going to make. I got a lot of positive response from a lot of you guys, and I promised to make a video on like a whole Q&A about like all the different things that we talked about in that video series. So I realized afterwards that some of the questions that you guys were posting didn't actually get through to me. There's some glitch with the YouTube comment system, or if you're talking about a topic or a subject that they deem sensitive, somehow it just doesn't get through to me. So in this video, if you do have a question that you'd like me to answer for that Q&A video, post it below and I'll make sure I add it to that video. Now, having said that, let's jump into the month of June, because there's a lot of craziness going on this month. The biggest news, the one that should have been in headlines all over the world, was the end of the petrodollar standard. You see, back in the 1970s, the Americans and the Saudis signed a deal. They signed a deal saying that all oil would be sold in US dollars. And this was good for both countries. It made the US dollar the de facto currency of the world. However, this month, well, actually last month in June, the Saudis decided they weren't going to do that anymore. The Saudis are leaning more towards China, towards Russia, and more along the BRICS countries, and this is a really, really big thing. And the reason this is so important is because the definition of a dollar has now changed. It used to be once upon a time that the whole energy behind a dollar, or even any currency, was based on the energy of Saturn. Something that's slow, methodical, and it takes a long time to develop and build. But more recently, over the last maybe 3 or 4 decades, it's turned into the energy of Rahu. Something based on illusion and all smoke and mirrors, rather than something tangible and substantial. With the end of the petrodollar standard, what you're going to notice is for maybe about the next decade or so, this Rahu-like energy over the dollar is going to continue. Meaning there's going to be a huge crisis for the US dollar, because Rahu never builds anything with a substantial base to it. It always creates castles in the sky. Those castles always come crashing down, which means in the years ahead there's going to be a huge crisis for the US dollar. There's also going to be a huge crisis for Saudi Arabia as well, but that's like the topic for a whole other video here. Maybe we'll come back and talk about that at some point in the future. But the end of the petrodollar was one of the big stories that took place over June, but for some reason no one really acknowledged it. One story people did acknowledge was the US presidential debate between Biden and Trump. And energetically, it was really more of a nothing burger type of event, that one. Trump said a lot of stuff that wasn't true. Biden just kept freezing or hitting the pause button with his brain, if you will. The energy there was really scattered, and really, really fractured. So the question then is, who will win, and does that debate even really matter? I'm not so sure, because I put out a video quite a while ago suggesting that this whole US presidential election cycle will have a lot of 12th house activity, meaning one of these candidates is either going to hospital, potentially get assassinated, end up in jail. Something nasty like that's going to happen. Now, if you look at the two candidates, Biden is more likely to go to hospital and Trump is more likely to go to jail. Though who knows if that's actually going to happen. The bottom line though is, I don't want you guys to have a look at this election through the lens of a Republican versus a Democrat. Look at it through the lens of the industrial age declining and the information age taking over. That's the topic of that most important video series that I'm ever going to make. I talked about it all in there. The other big news this month was that Israel is threatening to go to war with Lebanon. Energetically, this is a very neutral type of situation, meaning there's no planets or no zodiac houses that are pushing to make this take place. It's really just an extension of the existing war between Israel and Palestine. Because there's no energy behind it, there's really no predictions that we can make on how this thing is going to play out. So it's really just a wait and watch situation to see what happens there. The other big news this month is that India had its elections and Modi won them once again. Now, I'm on the record as predicting that Modi won't see out this current term, that he's actually going to resign and become a monk. He's actually come out and said already, just after the election, that he's going to resign in around about, I think it was 1 or 2 years from memory. So let's watch this space. If it does happen, I think it's going to be a brilliant thing for India to have a former prime minister become a monk, because that's so strongly in keeping with the values of Indian culture, at least in a traditional sense. I do also want to talk about cryptocurrencies, because it's been a disastrous 5 or 6 weeks over there. Now, in my last video in June, I was predicting that the crypto markets would go up, and they haven't done that. They've gone down terribly since then. So I'll probably need to make a whole entire video reevaluating the crypto space to try and figure out what's going on there. But we'll talk a little bit about crypto just in this video, but hopefully in the next couple days I can put out a proper video with more substantial information on the cryptocurrencies. Now, having said that, let's have a look at my predictions of the month of June to see how they fared, and then we'll do the predictions for the month of July. So my first prediction was that there would be a US dollar fall, and that kind of didn't take place. I'm not really sure how to grade that prediction there. Basically the petrodollar fell, and in hindsight, June of 2024 is going to be known as the period where the US dollar collapsed. So I'm going to put a tick next to that one. My next prediction was that gold and silver would fall in the first or second week of the month, which ended up happening. Though I also predicted that gold and silver would rise after that point. That did not take place. My prediction on the rise in the price of oil happened. The prediction on the rise in the stock market also took place too. And I was horribly wrong on the prediction on the cryptocurrency rise taking place as well. So for those of you keeping score, that puts me at about 14 predictions out of 20 so far this year. Now, let's get into the predictions for the month of July. My first prediction is that there will be a stock market rise for most of this month. I think there's going to be a correction though that will take place in the last week. So expect it to top out about there and start going down maybe 23rd, 24th of July. I'm also predicting an oil price rise to continue over this month, and during this time though, gold and silver should be going sideways. I'm only going to leave this month with 4 predictions though, so you'll notice there's no cryptocurrency prediction this month. I'll make a whole new video on that and give that out to you guys, hopefully in the next couple days. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to be ending this video, but before I sign off, I want to give you guys a very quick heads up that the month of August, or actually the end of August, is going to be a very difficult time for a lot of people. For the world at large and also individuals too. So just as a heads up, any big tasks or projects you're looking to do, don't do them over August generally, and that energy is probably going to spill over maybe until about the middle to end of September. So try and avoid any new projects over August and September. Anything that needs doing, do it now in July, or wait if you can until about October time. I'll come back and talk more about that in next month's video. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you.